Start recording. Okay, so again, today we're reviewing. Exam 3 will be due by 8 o'clock in the morning, a week from today. You have, I believe I've got it set that you have 75 minutes for the exam. You have one try. It's in My Labs. And you must submit your work in the Dropbox in Blackboard. In Blackboard, it's going to be in content. In content, there's going to be a folder for tests and quizzes, and there should be in there a Dropbox for, I have to apologize, I can't remember if I called it test 3 or exam 3. It's one or the other, 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. If you are using an iPhone, after you submit your pictures, please hold on to them. When you take your pictures, please try to get as close to your work as possible. I have some folks that send me lovely pictures, but it's too far away and too small, and I can't blow it up well enough to look at it. If you are using an iPhone, make sure you are using the iPhone app. You can't just kind of work without that app. They don't get inserted without the app. Does anybody have any questions about any of that? If not, next thing I'd like to do is I'd like to look at the homework. There's a lot of homework. Some of it is not due for a while, but hopefully you've started looking at all of it. Does anybody have any questions on any of the homework problems from test 2 to test 3? Does anybody want to look at any questions from any of those? Erin, I see you doing something, but I have to apologize. I don't see the chat. So, Erin, were you putting something in the chat or no?
You just said that he's here.
Okay. All right.
I have a quick question.
Sure.
Not really about math, but do we just get Thanksgiving day off?
No, we have off Thursday, Friday.
Okay, Thursday, Friday. Okay.
But we do have classes on Wednesday.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Does anybody want to look at any homework questions? If not, let's see what we can do in terms of knowing what you need to know in order to do well on this test. First of all, we talked about function. We talked about the domain. And we talked about the range. Can anybody help me with any one of these terms?
What was the question? I'm sorry.
We talked about a function, a domain, a range.
Yeah.
Can anybody tell me anything at all about any one of those words?
Range is the range of numbers in the set. Like how far they range, like from like 20 to 40 or.
Okay, that would be like a range from a statistical point of view. But in terms of when we're looking at a function, remember functions are ordered pairs? The domain are the first members or the x values. The range are the second members or the y values. We can get them by looking at the ordered pairs, or we can get them by looking at a graph. And we said in order to be a function, each member of the domain is used only once. So if an x value repeats, it's not a function. In terms of answering that function question, if we had a graph, do you remember we used the vertical line test? A vertical line will only cross it in one point. If it crosses in more than one point, it's not a function. With function, we also talked about function notation. If I have f of x equals 3x squared plus 7x minus 1, does everybody remember that f of x actually just means y? And if I ask for f of 1, what would I do?
So put 1 in for x.
Beautiful. So that would be 3 times 1 squared plus 7 times 1 minus 1. Remember your order of operations. First exponents, 1 squared is 1. 3 times 1, 3. 7 times 1, 7. 3 plus 7, 10 minus 1, 9. If I ask for f of negative 2, that would be 3 times negative 2 squared plus 7 times negative 2 minus 1. And you have to watch your signs. I think this one turns out to be negative 3. Check me on that though, please. And then they can get a little bit dicier. If I have something like f of x plus 1, where there's an x, instead of just putting in the x or putting in a number, we're putting that expression x plus 1 in. And if you see something like this, you've got to be careful. You've got to use your order of operations. Remember to square x plus 1. I'm taking x plus 1 times itself, which would give me x squared plus 2x plus 1. Then we have to distribute 3x squared plus 6x plus 3 plus 7x plus 7 minus 1. And then combining like terms, 3x squared plus 13x plus 9. Everybody comfortable with that function notation? If so, from there we went and we looked at linear functions. And we said in order to be linear, it had to be first degree, which means it has a exponent of 1 on the variable. When we talked about linear functions, the first thing we discussed was the slope. And can anybody remember how to find the slope between 2 points?
y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1.
Beautiful. The difference in the y values over the difference in the x values. And then we said that if slope is positive, greater than 0, it means our line increases or goes uphill. If slope is negative, it means that our line decreases. If slope is 0, it means our line is horizontal. And if the slope is undefined, and again, undefined means that I'd have a 0 denominator, we have a vertical line. And horizontal slope equals 0 would mean that I have a 0 in the numerator. And a couple of people got those mixed up on that linear quiz. After we looked at slope, we looked at finding the equation of a line. And we had first the point slope formula, which some people did not recognize on that quiz. Point slope formula is y minus the y value of the point is equal to the slope times x minus the x value of the point, left in that format. After point slope, the next thing that we had was the slope intercept form. Which was our y equals mx plus b, which was we got from solving for y, and we said that here m is the slope, b is the y-intercept, and then we also had what was a general form, which was ax plus by plus c equals 0, where one side is set equal to 0. We also had two special cases. If we have a horizontal line, the slope is 0, and we end up with just y equaling a constant. And if we have a vertical line, it has no slope, and we end up with just x equaling a constant. Then, from the different forms of a linear equation, we graphed a line. You should be able to do that. And then we look at the distance between 2 points. And we said that the distance was equal to the square root of the difference in the x values squared plus the difference in the y values squared. And we also talked about the midpoint of a segment, which was a point. The x value was the average of the x values of the endpoints, The y value was the average of the y values of the endpoints. From there, we went to circles, and we said that a circle was second degree in X and Y. General form, which didn't tell us a lot, was x squared plus y squared plus dx plus ey plus f equals 0. And we knew it was a circle because we have both x and y squared, and we can divide so that they both have a coefficient of 1. But completing the square, we said that if it was in center radius form, it made our lives easier, and we'd have x minus h quantity squared plus y minus k quantity squared equals r squared, where hk is the center and r is the radius. Then from there, we went on to look at quadratic functions. Which are second degree, but in only one variable. And so we could say there f of x equals ax squared plus bx plus c, which is our general form. In general form, we said that the axis of symmetry is the line x equals negative b over 2a. And to find our vertex, we find f of that value to get the y value. And we had said that if a is positive, it opens upward, and our turning point is a minimum. And if a is negative, it opens downward, and our turning point is maximum. We also had for these a vertex form, which was y equals a times x minus h quantity squared plus k. And here hk is the vertex. X equals h is the axis of symmetry. And again, if a is positive, it opens upward, and we have a minimum. And if a is negative, it opens downward, and we have a maximum. Now, if I'm not mistaken, I think that's the Reader's Digest abridged version of everything we've done since the last class. Can anybody think of anything that, because I'm just making this list off the top of my head, can anybody think of anything that we did that is not on the list? If not, the other thing that I thought that we would do today is go over one of those problem sets, one of those practice tests to give you a better idea of what is on that test. Is everybody ready for that? Everybody ready?
You hold on for a second.
Sure. That's why I'm asking. To see if I have to. Do you need me to scroll back? Did I do any of that too quickly? We can very easily scroll back. I'm also going to post what I just wrote in Blackboard.
No, I'm good. I'm just gonna write this this next equation down.
Let me know when you're ready.
I'm ready. Thank you.
Okay. Then let's go through and let's look at problem set 3, which is a practice test. And, what the heck is going on here? Very first question. Determine whether the following equation defines y as a function of x. Does the equation x squared plus y equals 100 define y as a function of x? Let's see, how are we going to tell this? We want to know is if for every x value we plug in, we only get one y value. And we could go through and do a lot of substituting x's to find out how many y's we have. I'm looking at that equation. And as I look at that equation, is everybody all right? I could say that's equivalent to y is equal to minus x squared plus 100. And in that form, does everybody recognize that this would be a parabola? And it would be a sad one. It would be opening downward. And as I picture that parabola, does everybody see that it would pass my vertical line test? And so the answer is yes, it is a function. There's many iterations of this test. Another iteration that I saw, the equation was more like x squared plus y squared equals 16. In this form, can anybody recognize what its graph would be? Is that a parabola if both x and y are squared? Anybody? If both x and y are squared, what would its graph be? Wouldn't it be a circle? And if it's a circle, it would fail my vertical line test. And so here the answer would be no. How does everybody feel about that question? We okay? You guys aren't answering. I don't know where you are today. Is this all right or no?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's fine.
Yeah, that's good.
All right, thank you. The next question asks you evaluate the function f of x equals x over the absolute value of x. And so we need f of 3, f of -3, and f of r squared. And so I'm going to shut up and ask you guys to work those out and tell me what you get. Anybody get an answer for the first one? Beautiful. The first one
The
is
second
one.
one.
The second one I don't think is
Oh,
one.
I thought the second one.
The second one
Oh.
I think that would be -3 over +3. So I think the second one would be -1.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And then the third one would also be +1. Because when I square something, it always turns out to be positive, right?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Then let's clear this. Look at the next question. Next question asks us to use a vertical line test to see if it's a function. So, vertical line test, is this a function or no?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a function.
Okay, because any vertical line would only cross it once. That one's almost too easy, isn't it? Maybe I'll take that out and replace it with something harder. Next one's an application word problem. It says a company that manufactures bicycles has a fixed cost of $80,000. It costs $150 to produce each bicycle. The total cost for the company is the sum of its fixed cost and its variable cost. Write the total cost as a function, then find and interpret C of 90. What would C of X be? How much does it cost this company? $80,000. No matter how many bikes they sell. Plus, if it's $150 for each bike, wouldn't that be $150 times the number of bikes? I know there were some of these in the homework. Does this make sense to everybody?
Yes.
And so for the cost to produce 90, we would just have to substitute 90 in for X. And so when you do that, what do you get?
Give me 1 second. $93,500.
That's what I got. Beautiful. Is that what everybody else got? Is this a question? Okay for everybody.
Yes.
Great. Then let's clear it and look at the next. Use the given conditions to write an equation for the line in point slope form and in slope intercept form. On the quiz, there were some people with a question like this that did not get full credit because they didn't use their point slope form. Point slope form is y minus the y value is equal to the slope times x minus the x value. So in
That
point,
one's for point slope?
Yep.
Okay, because I was confused on that on the test.
that's the point slope.
Okay.
You have a place to substitute in for a point, and you have a place to substitute in for the slope.
Okay.
So subbing in y minus the y value of point is -5. Is everybody all right if instead of writing y minus -5, I write y plus 5
Yep.
is equal to my slope, -4 times x is the variable in the line. The x value of my point is 2. So point slope formula, you're stopping here. And there were a lot of people who didn't stop there. They carried it on to the next step. If I go through and solve for y, that gives me my slope intercept form. That's my y equals mx plus b. Most notably, solve for y. So solving this for y, I think first thing I'd have to do is distribute. Y plus 5 equals -4 fifths x plus multiplying 8 fifths. And then subtracting 5 from each side.
Wait, where did you get 8/5?
4 fifths times -4 fifths
Oh, yeah,
times
okay.
x, -4 fifths times -2.
Okay.
Okay. And so then subtracting 5 from both sides, 5 is 25 fifths. So I think that gives me y equals -4 fifths x minus, I think that's 17 fifths. Here they ask for integers or fractions, so I would leave that as a fraction. How's that one?
Good.
If that's all right, then let's clear it and look at the next question. Next question says use the given conditions to write the equation for a line in point slope form and slope intercept form. So let's see, point slope form is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. And we know that we have a 0.15. Oh shoot, we don't have a slope. But we do have the x-intercept. X-intercept is a point on the x-axis. So is everybody all right? If I'm on the x-axis, that point has an x value of negative 2. But if it's the x-intercept, isn't its y value 0? And so this time what I have are 2 points. And so we'll have to find the slope, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, using our slope formula to start. And so that would give me 5 minus 0 over 1 minus negative 2, or 5/3.
Yeah.
And then I think I'm going to use that point for my point slope form. Gives me y minus 0 equals 5/3 times x minus negative 2 would be x plus 2. So that's my point slope form. And then slope intercept form, solving, I would get y equals, let's see here, we'd have to distribute 5/3 x plus 5/3 times 2 would give me 10/3. Is everybody all right? We were given the x-intercept there, not the y-intercept. We have to remember, with the x-intercept, it's a point whose x-coordinate is the number given, and whose y-coordinate is 0. Lots of thinking going on with that one. Is everybody comfortable with all of it?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Then can I undo this one, clear this one, and go on to the next?
I'm good.
Thank you for letting me know. Here's the given conditions to write the equation of a line in point slope and general form. So we've got it passing through the point 8, negative 7, and perpendicular to x minus 4y minus 7 equals 0. Everybody remember when we looked at perpendicular, the first thing we had to do was find the slope of the line we were given. And in order to do that, the easiest way is to solve for y. So let's see, I'm going to add the 4y to both sides, giving me x minus 7 equals 4y. And then to get y all alone, I'll divide, which gives me y equals 1/4 x minus 7/4. This line has a slope of 1/4. And so does everybody remember the slope of the perpendicular would not be the same, but rather, since that's positive, it'll be negative. And I have to take the reciprocal. So the slope of the perpendicular line is -4. And so now that I have that perpendicular slope for my point slope, which again is y minus the y value, is equal to the slope times x minus the x value. Substituting, that would give me y minus -7, or y plus 7, is equal to my slope, or -4, times x minus the x value is 8. Then to put that in general form, let's simplify. Distributing y, and so that's the point slope form. I ought to box that off for you folks, I'm sorry. Y plus 7 equals -4x plus 32. And then for general form, we're going to make one side 0. So if I add the 4x and subtract the 32 from both sides, I get 4x plus y minus 25 equals 0. Does everybody remember? One day we kind of said, well, let's compare this to the original. And because the coefficients are interchanged and it's the opposite operation, we know that it is indeed that perpendicular line. Is everybody all right with that?
Yes.
What if scenario? What if instead of saying perpendicular, this question said parallel? What would I do differently if the question said parallel? Instead of perpendicular, if it said parallel, first we
Well,
have,
the slope would be the same.
yep. And so the
Alright,
parallel slope would be the same.
Yeah.
And so you should be able to work with it either way. All right? And if that's okay, can I clear this screen and go on to the next one?
I'm good.
Thank you. Next question asks you to write the slope-intercept equation of the function who satisfies it passes through negative 8, 6 and is perpendicular to a line that has an x-intercept of 5 and a y-intercept of negative 10. So again, I've got this perpendicular, so I'm thinking I have to find the slope. And then use the negative reciprocal. But how am I going to find the slope of the line that has an x-intercept of 5 and a y-intercept of negative 10? The x-intercept is on the x-axis, so it has a y value of 0, so that's the 0.50. Y-intercept is on the y-axis, so it has an x value of 0, so that would be the 0.0, negative 10. And now I can find my slope by taking the difference in the y values over the difference in the x values, which would be 0 minus negative 10 over 5 minus 0, or 10/5, or 2. Excuse me. And is everybody comfortable with this idea of taking those intercepts and writing them as coordinates?
Yeah.
Now that we've got that done, we've got the slope of this line, the perpendicular slope, would be the negative reciprocal, or negative 1/2. And And it doesn't tell us what form to put that oh, yeah, it asks for it in slope intercept form. I apologize. To get that, I'm going to start with my point slope form. Uh-oh. Give me a minute, guys. The sun is out and this surface overheats when it's in the sun. So I'm going to move my desk around for a minute. There we go. And so that gives me y minus the y value of my point is 6 is equal to my slope, negative 1/2 times x minus the x value of my point, which is negative 8. X minus negative 8 would be x plus 8. And so now solving for y minus 6 equals negative 1/2 x. Negative 1/2 times 8 would be minus 4. And then adding 6, I get y equals negative 1/2 x plus 2. Everybody else happy with that one?
Yeah, I'm good on it.
Good. If nobody needs extra time, I'm going to clear it and go on to the next question. Find the distance between 2 points, simplified radical form, and then round to 2 decimal points. So the distance formula is the square root of the difference in the x values squared plus the difference in the y values squared. And hey, folks, in class test, you would not be given these formulas. You need to know them. You should not have a formula sheet for this test. You should know these formulas. So subbing in, the x values are 5.3 minus 0.7 squared plus 9.2 minus 6.2 squared would give me the square root of, what would that be? 4.6 squared plus 3 squared, which would be the square root of, and I'm thinking because that's a decimal, I'm not going to try to simplify that radical. I'm just going to take 4.6 squared plus 3 squared, which gives me the square root of 30.16. That would be my exact answer. And then 4 to the nearest decimal, I would take the square root of that and get to the nearest 2 decimal places, 5.49. How are you folks with your distance formula?
Good. I'm good. It's not that. It's easy.
Good. Then let's clear this and look at the last few questions. Midpoint. Midpoint again is a point. Since it's a point, it has an x value and a y value. The x value is the average of the x's, x plus x over 2. Y value is the average of the y's, y plus y over 2. And so that gives me negative 5/3 plus negative 13/3 over 2. Negative 18/3 would be negative 6 over 2 would be negative 3. Average of the y values would be 1/3 plus -7/3 over 2 would be -6/3 over 2, or -2 over 2 would be -1. Is everybody all right with that formula? And also with their arithmetic with fractions.
Yes.
Then I'll clear that one and go on to the next.
I have to leave at noon for work. Is that okay?
Sure, just,
All right.
get what you missed, because these are all questions that correspond to the test.
Right, okay.
Standard form of the equation, let's see, in order to, of a circle is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. So that would be x minus 4 squared plus y minus -3 would be y plus 3 squared equals the square root of 6 squared is 6. And we're done. Everybody all right with that one?
Can you hold on a second?
Sure.
Thank you. Done. I'm done. Thank you.
Everybody else done? Next, you ask you to use the center and radius of the circle described by the equation to graph it and identify the domain. Let's, before we start writing, let's make this a little bit bigger. Based on the form of that equation, if I compare that to my x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. Is everybody all right? The center, to get +6, I'd be subtracting -6. The x value is -6. Y value, I'm subtracting 5. The radius squared is 36, so the radius is 6. And so my center would be the point -6, 5. And my radius would be 6. So when I go 6 in each direction, if I were doing this by hand, I'd get a picture sort of like that. But thankfully, we're not doing it by hand, so using the circle tool, I'll click on the center and I will just pull it out, the radius, and, oops, my center's in the wrong place. What did I do? There's my center. Huh? There's my center, and there's my radius, and that looks much prettier than my hand-drawn one. Is everybody all right with that one?
Yeah.
Domain? Oh, I forgot half the question. Domain, do you see how my x values go? The smallest x value is -12, largest is 0. So the domain would be from -12 to 0. Range, smallest y value is -1. Largest y value is 11. So the range would be from -1 to 11. And I'm including those endpoints. Would this be a function? Would this circle pass my vertical line test?
No.
No, not a function. It would fail. So I'm going to clear the drawings and go to the next question. Find the vertex of the parabola given by f of x equals 2 times x minus 9 quantity squared. I'm sorry, this Silas and I are not friends today. I'm apologizing if it's a little messy. Minus 4. I compare that to f of x equals a times x minus h squared plus k. Is everybody all right? H would be 9, k would be negative 4. So that would be my vertex. If they asked anything more, A is 2, which is positive, so it opens up. Is everybody all right with that one? Not hearing any questions? I'm going to clear that and look at the next. We're given the function f of x equals 2x squared minus 2x. Without graphing, does it have a minimum value or a maximum value? Leading coefficient, A is 2, which is positive. Since it's positive, it opens upward. So is everybody all right? It has a minimum. The x value of the minimum would fall on the axis of symmetry, which occurs at x equals negative b over 2a, which would be the negative of negative 2 over 2 times 2. So it would be a half. That's where it occurs. The minimum value then would be f of a half, which would be 2 times a half squared minus 2 times a half. So 2 times a fourth is a half, minus 1 would be negative a half. So the actual minimum value is negative a half. And it occurs at x equals a half. Domain is all real numbers. Range, the smallest value, the minimum value, is negative 1/2, and there is no largest value because the parabola would open upward from there. Thoughts on that one? Any questions? If not, I'm going to clear this. Can I clear it?
Yeah.
And please, when you go through and do the problem set, please make sure you do it more than once because again, the questions are grouped. Different iterations could show different things. So for example, while it didn't appear in this one, you might have to complete the square to find parts of a circle. You might have to do other things with your linear equations. I do know a couple of people came in after I took attendance, so let me take care of that first. Is John Rieger here? Ty, you came in, right?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. You were a little late?
Yeah.
Nick B, you were a little late?
Yeah.
Who else came in a little late?
I came in late.
Okay, thank you, Alyssa. Anybody else come in late that didn't hear me call your name at attendance? I just heard somebody say something and I don't know who said what.
This is Rachel J. I didn't know if you got me in attendance.
Yeah, I did, Rachel. I said, you didn't answer when I called, but I figured, I know sometimes it looks like you're working in class from work, and so I saw that you were here and I marked you.
Thank you.
Okay, Aaron, we got you. All right, anybody have questions on anything else?
No.
No, I'm seeing, let me just double check the chat. Anything new in the chat? No. All right, if nobody's got anything else, shall we call it a day?
That works.
Okay, all right, get homework done, do that preliminary test a couple of times and take that test. One shot, you've got 75 minutes, which is probably way too long, but that's how long class time would be, so I gave it to you. All right?
Thank you.
Okay, have a great day, you guys.
You as
Thanks, you
well.
too.
Bye-bye. Sarah, any questions?